Hello, I am Bryce, the one you will see giving the interviews mostly. And here are my friends that will accompany me along this journey. Miles, Justin, and Jasper. And our teacher and administrator, commander, director, executive, general, governor, hierarch, and higher up, Mr. Sanford. This parade of misfits has been on YouTube for a while, and we received an email about the Yes Challenge back in February. First, we contemplated applying, thinking that we were not ready, not skilled enough, and simply thinking we weren't capable. But nonetheless, we stepped in, because we thought of the ones in Mandaree who needed to be heard when it came to mental health and drug addiction. We needed to inspire change, in any way we could. So, here we are. The Yes Challenge, a movement created by Catherine and Doug Burgum, a movement to eliminate stigma and bring awareness to mental health and drug abuse. We are lucky enough to be one of many winners, and we're proud to present our documentary of the subject to you. Featured in this documentary are hometown heroes and big town heroes alike. A big thank you for watching this documentary from the AVP Club, Circle of Life Foundation, and the office of Catherine and Doug Burgum. We hope you enjoy.
I do have addiction story. Okay, so I got married when I was 20 to a cowboy, and I was a cowgirl at the time. So I think we were married for 8 years, but he was an abusive alcoholic. When he'd go, he'd be gone for days. He'd come home and start beating on me. So I put up with that for my kids' sake. Yeah. Then divorced him. And when you're in an addictive relationship, you become codependent. Mm-hmm. So you do everything, you're trying to maintain a perfect family harmony. And you think you can cure them. Well, like a dummy, I remarried him, and it continued. So, I finally got out of that relationship, but there was a point in time when I quit taking it. I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. I'd gone out on my birthday with some friends of mine, and he got mad because I didn't take him, or I didn't go with him. Well, he never came home, so I went. Anyway, we got into a big fight out in the middle of the road, and I broke his fingers, and he gave me a black eye. So that was it. That was the end of it. And so I divorced him again. And then now, we get along better now than we did when we were married, but he's not drinking. And he's like 10 years older than me. He's an old man who's got major health problems. So. And he almost died here a couple years ago, and he's, I think, coming to the realization that, he didn't live a very good life concerning his family. And if you really want to get into it, he was married 5 times. He has 24 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Never paid a penny in child support to any of them. So my kids have major brothers and sisters. So yeah. So and then what else do you want to know?
Have you seen anything similar just around Fort Berthold?
Well, I don't really know about the personal lives of the parents, but I can see how it's affected the kids. I see a lot of those codependency traits in many of our students. I see kids sleeping in school because they can't sleep at home, because of whatever activities are going on there. So they don't feel safe. So where do they sleep? Where they feel safe, which is school. And that goes along with, they can't get their work done. Yeah, it's just a ugly situation all around. But I think here, I don't really, I'm sure there's a lot of drinking here. I don't know about that, but I know there's a lot of drugging just by just talking to some of my students, and I think here the way I believe is that it's more the drugs than the alcohol.
Would you say it's prevalent?
Yes, I'd say drugs are prevalent over alcohol. Yes.
Our hearts felt heavy for her and her story. We were glad she shared what she did, considering that she wasn't willing to go on film. This next interview we have in line is Miss Poitra. Everyone in the school knows her, and she has a lot to say about the subject of stigma and addiction. She also has some personal stories to tell about her addiction and her struggle to become sober. Here she is. How were drugs back then? Do you consider them less serious compared to today?
Back then in high school and growing up with the drugs, mainly it wasn't drugs like I said before. Excuse me, it was mainly the alcohol. Excuse me. And then the drugs, I didn't see none of the drugs until I was in high school. And it was cocaine and heroin. I don't know if it was heroin, but I know it was cocaine. And marijuana though, constant. I mean, all the time.
Were they less serious back then, or were they just as serious?
I did not, mainly they drank. And we didn't get involved with it. So I don't know if it was serious. And the students in high school would get stoned and come to school, and nothing was done to them. They weren't taken out or, by police or anything. So I don't know. And mainly I lived down the country, so once I got on the bus, excuse me, I wasn't in Whitechapel on the weekends when the partying was going on, or, and I didn't see that at my home. Mainly it was alcohol.
The next question is, how was getting help perceived? Was it mostly support?
Back in those days, I'm just gonna talk about myself, how I got help and stuff. I didn't see no help. I didn't hear of no help. And if we did have an alcoholism program here in Newtown, I didn't hear it growing up. And even in my early 20s, and I moved to Minot and stuff. And I'm assuming there was help in Minot, but I didn't pursue it. I was too young to think I had a problem. I was too young. But when the attempted suicides came, I got help for that. But the stigma of mental illness, the stigma of suicide, was so great that you didn't want to talk about it to anybody. And I faced that with my own family. My own family, it wasn't strangers. It was my own family that cut me down. But it's like I just forged on because I wanted to live. I wanted help. But at the same time, I was seeing the psychiatrist, I was still using, so it defeated the purpose. And I realized it when I finally got help and stuff with my alcohol, yeah.
The next question is, did any of your family have your back during these tough times?
Not when I went treatment, and not when I was going through my attempted suicides, because they all drank. Back, growing up in our alcohol home, we learned 3 things: don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel, at a very early age. And that was to protect ourselves as children from the violence and abuse and everything else, from these so-called adults that said they were going to give them to Miles, that were going to take care of us. I didn't understand that. Because when I finally grew up, I was the 5th generation coming in with the alcoholism with my own kids. But at that time, I didn't know it was a disease. Growing up, like I said yesterday, it was normal. I thought it was normal to grow up because everybody else around me. So when we turned 18, graduated from high school, and that's all we did. Well, let's go drink. As soon as we turned 21, we went into the bar because everybody else did it. So back growing up, no, there was no support. If you want to stay sober at an early age, everybody. And I remember that, my mother died. I'm never going to drink. I'm never going to be like my dad. I remember at 12 years old saying that. I remember that. But I just followed the flow to fit in.
Okay. Well, in the context of drugs and alcohol and mental health in general, in what ways does our native spirituality get us through this?
It will get you through if you were taught it at an early age. You were taught your way of life and your culture and your history and how our ancestors came down and how our people came down and how they survived in these hard times when those traders brought that alcohol to that rock gut whiskey to get them all drunk so they could take their land and everything, and that's recorded. And our people today still can't handle that. And you go back 5, 6, 7 generations, and we're in 7 generations now. Go back and see how well they perceived that alcohol. A lot of them didn't. They took it. But because we were pure to Mother Earth, we are the keepers. Our system, we never had alcohol in our life. Alcohol and drugs in our whole life. We never had it. That's why we got sick. Died. Lots of people died because of it. But in general right now, if you are not being raised with your culture, if you're not being raised to pray, to just get up and pray, there's not going to be nothing there for you to look forward to for help. There's not going to be. A lot of these students, that's why I said, there's no foundation being set at an early age. I was 2 years ago, I told my kids, I'm going home, and you know what I do? I pray for you guys every day. They said, how come? I said, because you get a shotty. You get a shotty. You're going home now to those alcoholic homes now. You got to survive for 3 days on your own. You got to feed your brothers and sisters. You got to look for food. You got to take care of yourself now. But you also got to take care of siblings. So I pray for all you that you're going to be safe and there's going to be food on the table for you. You know, they're like just, oh, okay. They're shocked. Because when the Congress or whoever took the prayer out of school and separated, you know, religion, you know, it's like, why they do that? Because in with our own little system here, our school, public school, I didn't take the prayer out. You know, I pray constantly for these kids. Sometimes I'll do it, separate, but otherwise, someone pray for you, you know. But I talk about our spirituality. I don't talk about the religion, and when I do share the religions, it's the history and how they came down, the religions, and how they came to our people, especially the black robes. I did a sin, you know, a lot of them with the smallpox, you know, and I shared the history of that religion. So they got a choice. They have a choice, you know.
Do you have any advice for people going through the rough patch, considering and to being tempted by drugs and alcohol?
Today's world, when they get sent to treatment, they need to stay away as long as they can. Because when they come back after 30 days, and I've seen it, 60 days, especially with this meth, because once you ingest that, all those chemicals, they rewire your brain. They rewire whatever heart, your spirit you got left. And they take you for a ride. So when it comes out of your system, then you're sitting there like, what am I supposed to do? I don't have this anymore. I don't have this crutch anymore to hang on to. How am I going to deal now? I got to deal with my feelings. I got to get a job. I got to do this. I got to take care of my kids. I got to do this. Oh my God, what am I going to do? So they come back to the reservation, same old, same old, same old. Where's our halfway houses? Some of our communities, our districts have them now. Where's our support at? No one wants to come forth in this community. We started AA. We were the first ones to start AA 34 years ago in this community. No one had a problem. Today, no one still has a problem. We started again last fall, my brother started meetings again. But there's always been that support. There's always been, but it's the people, it's a shame that you have within yourself. Once you get sober, it's a shame of, oh my God, I don't want to go in public. Oh my God, I don't want anybody to see me. Oh my God, look what I did. No. You know, the Creator made us all human, and He gave us that free will. And we made that decision to triumph and do the wrong thing and make the wrong decisions, which is okay. Now, hey, I'm going to make the right decisions. So you take those wrong decisions you made for yourself and your children and your family, whoever, and your people in your community, and say, hey, I need your support because I'm going to stand strong today now, and I'm going to stay alcohol and drug free. But I really need your help because this chemicals I had inside my body, it's tough. It's harder than the alcohol, and it is, because it rewires your whole brain. And it's chemicals that you use to wash your floors with, to scrub your house with. That's what you ingested inside. Okay? Can you stop or no? You know, when I got sober here because I moved over here. The last 3 years of my drinking, because my brother was here and 3 of my sisters had married here. So we moved. I was in Minot, but I moved to White Chill, Minot, and I came over here. So we all transplanted. But I did the majority of my drinking in White Chill growing up. So for 3 years, almost 4 years, I would not stop in White Chill on the weekends because I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't strong enough because if I stopped there, and my relatives that still drink, they all drink. If I stopped there, all it would take, come on, you know, just one's not gonna hurt you. Come on, still drink with us. So I stayed away to protect myself and my children. And my sister-in-law, she'd cry, how come you don't stay here? How come you drive through and just visit and then leave? I said, because I don't have the strength to say no to anybody. So I was weak about a good 3, 4, 5 years. To my own relatives, to my own family that cut me down because I was trying to stay sober. Well, you're too good for us now. Because the alcoholism was so ingrained from our generation. I was the first one in my family in the 50s. It took 5 generations for someone to get sober. 5 generations. You look at that, how long it's been with us. How long it's been ingrained in our heads that it's okay to do that. Then you go back in history and you read all your history and all the chiefs. And when they signed those chiefs, like, oh my God, they were sober. Oh my God, they didn't touch nothing. You know? And that's so awesome to hear that our ancestors did not touch today. What is so evil and so powerful that it's just killing our people today. And it's are killing our young ones. So you ask them, well, who's your support? And what do you do for yourself to get that support? Like I share, you know, I used to drive on Sundays. All the bars would be closed. All the liquor stores. So from here, I travel all the way to Fairview, Montana to get beer so I could drink. So they said, turn that around now. Drive as far as you can to go to a meeting and ask those people sitting there for help. Because today, people are still not asking for help. I can do it on my own. I said, good, I'll still pray for you. I'm here. You need help? Here's my phone number, need help. But I said, I'll give you a month. Because you're going to last a month. And then you're going to fall. And then sure enough, they do. I had one person coming in from White Chill. How long you been on the wagon now, Dora? And I said, I've never been on there, put myself on any wagon. Because a long time ago was, oh, so-and-so's on the wagon. They went to Jamestown. That's the way I used to hear growing up. I didn't know what Jamestown, that it was a hospital and it was a mental hospital. Mm-hmm. And they finally turned it into alcoholism program too. And I used to hear that growing up. Oh, so-and-so went to Jamestown. They're on the wagon now. They're back. They got back on the wagon. And I didn't understand that growing up. What the heck they talking about? Wood wagon? I don't see no wagons out here. I'd be looking for wagons, you know? Yeah. And I didn't understand that concept till I got sober. And I got in treatment. And the counselors told me these are the words of recovery. This is what you're going to hear. Here's what you're not going to want to hear. Okay? And so I told them I never, ever got on that wagon. Because every time I heard someone say, I'm on the wagon now for a year. I've been on the wagon now for 18 months. That wagon would tip over. And they'd be laying there. And they'd be drunk. Oh, man, I just couldn't take it no more. Oh, I couldn't handle it no more. Oh, my God, I just couldn't do it. I said, did you fall off your wagon? Said, yep. I said, that's why you don't put yourself there. And I never have. 34 years, I've never put myself on that wagon. Yeah, so I didn't have to fall. You know, and even my first year coming home here and trying to stay sober, oh my gosh, that was the toughest. But where you lost your respect at, that's why I tell these young ones and the ones who are in recovery, where you lost your respect at, you go back there. And you get that respect back. But I said, the hardest person that has to be forgiven is yourself. That's the hardest person. Because if you don't forgive yourself for all what you did when you're drinking, you're going to die. You're going to die from the drinking. Because your body's going to say, I can't do that. Look at, I hurt my kids. I drove drunk with my kids. Oh my God, I beat my kids. I did everything drinking. I put everything down on that paper when I was in treatment. Because I wanted to live. Because I knew one day my grandbabies were coming. They were coming. And I wanted to be a sober grandma. Because I didn't have that growing up. And no grandma's growing up to help me. So today, you know, the Creator took pity on me. When I was in treatment, I told him, help me, and help me to stay sober when I walk out of here. And I will dedicate my life to the children. And I have. I made that promise, and he has. And he's kept me sober. One day at a time, and you tell him to take it one day at a time, because that's how it works. They can't project, gee, 6 months down the road, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this. No, don't do that. Don't set yourself up, as I tell my students, don't set yourself up for failure. Why are you sabotaging your own goodwill and everything? And that's what they do, a lot of them. Don't sabotage. You got a week sobriety, hang on to it. Start the next week, you got another week. You got another week. First thing you got a month. Don't sabotage. Don't sabotage your own recovery. And we've always done it. You know, they have always done it. So, but yeah, ask them and tell them they need support. You know, who's supporting you right now? Who's supporting you? That's the main thing right now. Nothing else matters. It's that support. So even they got one sister to hang on to, a sister, one brother, one uncle, auntie. They got a grandma to hang on to. Hey, hang on to that person, because that's the main thing. Yeah. When I got treatment, I came back to Williston. I think I went to meeting every night when I was here, and we started our own meetings. That's what saved me. And I started working with the youth. We started the SAD chapter. Started working with the youth, Students Against Drunk Driving. They saved me. That was Annalie Johnson. That was Andrita Sears. That was Denise Lincoln. She's a teacher now. Those are the kids that came to my house. And we formed a group called Alateen. And those are the kids, the students today, that helped me get sober back in those days. And I don't credit myself saying, oh, I got sober myself and I did it on my own. I didn't. I had lots of people in my circle. My sisters, adopted sisters came forward. I crawled in that sweat lodge. That also what saved me was the sweat lodge. I was able to clean everything I did wrong to my kids, because I felt so bad what I did to my sons. You know, like they say, and our ancestors said, the Creator, the children are gifts from God. They're only on loan here. We need to take care of them. And we're still failing because of the alcohol and drugs today. We're still failing. We're not taking care of our kids today. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I would just like to clear up for people who aren't native who are watching the documentary, you said get a shadzi.
Oh.
Yeah.
It means pitiful. But what pitiful mean? Pitiful can mean I'm poor. I have no good clothes to wear, nothing. Pitiful, oh, I got just one eye. Pitiful, I have just one arm, one leg, I can't walk. But in ours would be pitiful in our way, our spirituality would be, I got no spirit here. No, I'm not praying for myself. And those are the most pitiful ones, because they have lost that. They have lost that. And so in that circle, it's like, I'm lost. And that's where the confusion comes in. And why should I live then? Because I have nothing here. So pitiful can mean a lot of things. But I think in our, and you know, the way I believe it and stuff, get a shot, you know, it's like when you don't have this and you're not connecting it with that brain and your body. Yeah, really pitiful. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Boja.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, I rented it.
I just want to say that this interview was probably the longest emotionally, and for good reason. Ms. Boja had a lot to say and didn't hold back. We are glad to get this interview because it adds a lot about spirituality and how togetherness and honesty can pull you out of addiction. The next interview we have in line is Mr. Chandler. He is the tallest in the school, and probably the coolest of the staff I've heard from so far. He isn't from the reservation, but he has a lot of stories and personal experiences to share. Here is Mr. Chandler. So if you wanted to start off with the advice?
So I was thinking about this, and what I would say to you guys is don't think it couldn't happen to you, because it can easily happen to you. That was my my bit of advice.
All right.
Don't think, you know, you're above it, because it can happen to anybody. Because I thought that, oh, it won't happen to me. And I got trapped.
Because there's one thing I'm thinking now is that I'll never do it. Because things that I've heard my dad say and my uncle say is, it's mostly like a waste of money just for like a temporary experience.
I think, yeah, it is. I think of all the money I've wasted on drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, everything associated with that, I could have bought a house with. You know, well, I don't know about that, but, you know, a brand new car at least. You know, so it's a big waste of money. And the best thing is, yeah, don't start.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. That's probably the best thing you can do. Just avoid it altogether.
Okay. Miles, you got a question?
Did you have questions out there?
Yeah, I know,
But
but
do you have one?
Yes, I do.
He's gonna forget
Let's see. What did we ask, or what didn't we?
It doesn't
ask?
matter.
Anything?
opening question.
Yeah, it doesn't
Oh,
matter.
opening
If
question.
we've already covered it, you know, that's fine.
Where do you see? Okay. I don't know. I can't think of it.
Just say
Cut
any
to Justin. Cut to Justin. I'll think of one by then.
Okay.
Where would you mainly see this happening? In drug abuse?
Drug abuse? In high school, in college. In college, it's everywhere. Everybody's experimenting. And when I got out in the real world, I started working in restaurants, cooking in restaurants, and it's very prevalent. Everybody I'd say 90% of restaurant employees are on some sort of drug.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Those are the people cooking your food.
Why do you think people are afraid to talk about this? If it hurts so much.
Because there is a big stigma attached to it. You know, oh, you're a drug addict. Even though I've been, you know, clean for 12 years, some people still see me as a drug addict. So why would I want to? Hey, I'm a drug addict. You know, I'm a recovering drug addict. You know, why would I want to throw that out there? Well, I don't mind, but some people do. You know, I don't know if that was your question.
Okay. Well, thanks for opening questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with mine. This one is a Mr. Chandler specific. Okay. I know this was kind of similar to the ones we asked in the first interview.
That's
but,
fine.
You know, we're just...
Cut, paste, whatever you need to do.
So, how did you start your addiction? Where did you decide to stop?
How did I start? Okay, we'll just stick with the most recent, the worst, the opiates. I was working in a restaurant, working in the kitchen, and at the time I was smoking pot and drinking mostly. And then somebody offered me a pain pill, a Lorcet. Said, here, you know, you're having a rough day, take this, it'll get you through the day. I took that, I loved it, and one became two became four, and so on and so forth. Heroin was I didn't quite get that far, you know, I never injected, you know, I never shot up, but that was where I was headed. And what was the second half of that?
When did you decide to stop?
I took a look at my life and where it was headed. I was either going to end up in jail or dead, and I decided to do something about that. That woke me up and scared me enough to get clean.
Okay. This was Alicia specific too? But
Should be here.
okay. I'd like to ask you this too.
Okay.
What age were you when you started your addiction? And what did your thoughts embody? Did you feel sad towards your addiction? Did you feel like nothing of it? Did you think it was just...
It numbs you to feelings. It kind of helps you black them out, so I felt nothing. How old was I? Well, I first started smoking pot in high school. I was 16, 17. But I don't know if I was necessarily addicted to pot. But truly, I quit. After college, I quit well, before I got through college, I had done several drugs and I'd stopped taking them. But the worst were the opiates, and I was, so I was 12, 15, so I was around 28, 29 when I started. I'm 45 now, so I had a good, 4 or 5 years.
How did the moment hit you when you decided to turn your life around? Like, if you went into detail as much as you could.
I think I mentioned this yesterday. A friend of mine and I, well, like another addict, we were crushing up pills and snorting them. And he looked at me and said, "I give us 6 months, 6 months before we shoot them." And it really hit me. And I went home that day and I thought about it, and I saw, where that, the addiction had already, at this point, it already cost me a lot, family, friends. And I thought if I continued down this path, 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to either end up dead from an overdose, or I'm going to end up in jail. So that night I looked online and I researched treatment programs and found one. And the next day I made a phone call and went. And I guess what did it was I was late 20s, early 30s. I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
That's not a long enough life. So that really got it in my head. I need to, and I thought about my relationship with my family and friends that I'd screwed over, and I wanted my family back. So I decided to do something about it. So I don't know if I necessarily hit rock bottom, but I got pretty close as far as the addiction went. I was really bad off. It could have been worse, but I really am thankful I decided to get out. And you can't do it alone. You need a support system, and I found one that worked for me. There's a lot out there now. It's becoming more and more mainstream. The opiate crisis is huge in this country. It's getting national exposure. So more and more programs are coming up. You said you're going to one coming up. I can't remember what the name of the place is.
Circle of Life.
Circle of Life. You're going there. I'm sure 10, 15, 20 years ago that place didn't exist, or not as many of those places existed. So it's good to see, and it's good to see.
Sorry, guys.
Come on, Miles.
It's good to see that it's reached the federal, Congress is talking about it. So it's good to see that, and that will help, and more and more programs be. So if I found one that worked for me, and that was a big part of it. I think with all the programs that are out there, if you don't like one, you can move on to the next and see if that works for you. But the most important thing is to get into some sort of program, because you can't do it by yourself. I definitely couldn't have. I couldn't have handled it. Just the mental and emotional support. It meant a lot, and it helped me out tremendously.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything to say in terms of advice to people going through tough times and considering going into their temptation of wanting to go into drugs and alcohol and stuff?
There are other ways to handle your grief. Find a group, talk about it. Go to church. Churches are great. They're not for me, but that community is very supportive and loving. Talk to a family member. If not an immediate family member. Like I said, it numbs you to your feelings. Yeah, but when you do sober up, they come back tenfold. You think about all the stuff you've done. So, get help immediately. Talk to somebody, even if it's a teacher at school or a coworker, or a friend or a family member. Talk to somebody. Okay? And tell them, and be blunt, tell them what you're going through. Tell them how you're feeling, and tell them, what you're thinking. And yeah, that would be the advice I give.
Nice. And for the final question, as you know, we're going to the Circle of Life Thursday morning, and we're going to be talking to community members who are going through the rehabilitation process. And would you want us to give us a question we would like to ask them?
I can't think of anything specific, but ask leading questions. Let them talk. They want to talk. That's part of the recovery process. They want to tell you their story. At least that's how I was. So, just, hey, what's your name? What brought you here? How are you doing? What do you think your chances are? And what kind of support system do you have? And wish them luck, and tell them you'll pray for them or whatever,
Yeah.
So to kind of, just don't go there and look at them like drug addicts. Treat them like humans, because they're going through a rough time, and they do need that support. And leading questions, just let them talk. They'll be more than happy.
Okay. Well, a big thank you from me and Miles, even though it doesn't look like you're thankful.
Thank you guys.
You got any questions?
I didn't mean to do that.
And Justin. And Jasper.
And Justin.
Let's see.
The most fun I ever had on drugs.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Galleria in Birmingham?
Have you ever been to the Eiffel Tower?
No,
Not right now.
I went to Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Vancouver Island and Vancouver. My college roommate was from Tacoma. His parents had a beach cabin in out of right outside Port Angeles. We took a ferry over to Vancouver Island.
Oh.
And bought codeine over the counter and smuggled it back.
Codeine.
Yeah, it's mild painkiller. You take enough of them, you get a buzz. That was back in the college drug days. And then we went up to Vancouver, where prostitution is legal. Not that we did anything. I turned 21 on the trip back.
Oh,
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
did you celebrate it at that immediate moment?
Yes, we did. Right at midnight, we got high. When we went up to a bar that night, a couple bars, nobody bought me a drink. Nobody wished me happy 21st birthday. Because it was a Jackson Hole. You ever been to Jackson Hole, Wyoming?
Oh, no.
National Park? It's a tourist town. Nobody cares. They just want your money. Like your birthday? Oh, yeah. Good for you. $8 for a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, happy birthday. Don't
Yeah.
forget the tip.
Yeah, right?
All your responses back.
Okay, got it.
Don't make anything current if it
Okay.
interferes with the job.
Yeah, I don't,
Okay.
I'm not in the shot.
No.
okay.
All right. We ready?
Yeah, it's recorded.
All right, cool. We got visual. Okay. All right, first question. How did you start and when did you decide to stop?
Drugs. I was 14 and I had decided to make it a personal mission to go crazy. And the first time I smoked pot, which was the first drug I ever did, I was on a vacation with my dad and walked down the beach and some guys were smoking a joint and I wanted to partake. But I went crazy. I went to high school and then in the 9th grade, I had this friend that was a little bit older than me in another city and I decided to start smoking crystal meth right after just right away. I hadn't been smoking pot for 2 months, Like I said, it was a mission.
Yeah.
And this one time, just to show how horrible it is and how you can't trust drug addicts and people in this whole thing, I was taking a bong rip and they had laced it with Special K, which is cat tranquilizer. And I went into a K-hole, and I'm 14, ketamine, and I passed out on the car and went into convulsions and nobody knew what to do. And I vaguely remember that, but it's Cartman. But that's how dangerous drugs are. You don't, like the guy smoking the joint, it could have been laced with something. You never know.
Yeah.
When you're getting it up, when it's not prescribed to you from a doctor, which can be just as bad.
I got some pot one time was laced with PCP.
Yeah,
The guy that sold it to me thought it was funny.
it's so dangerous.
I went home, I smoked some, I just started, and the next day I was like, what was in it? He started laughing. I said, "Hey, PCP. Oh my God, thanks."
Jeez.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's why I when I said the only thing I haven't tried, I didn't mention PCP because I haven't tried it.
And it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault, but I was smoking the pot, so
Yeah.
And you never know.
you never know. That was good.
Okay.
I found on Facebook or something recently that fentanyl that killed our friend last year was being put into Xanax bars somehow, and they're fake Xanax bars, but they look identical to the Xanax bars. So even if it's a prescription drug, but you're getting it from somebody on the street, you can never, it can turn out bad.
Yeah. There was a rapper. He had a funny name. His rapper name was Lil Peep.
I think I've heard of that guy.
Yeah. He got fake Xanax, and it was laced with some really hardcore stuff.
Right.
Probably fentanyl.
Yeah, most likely. And it was, the news outlet didn't even want to like specify what it was, but I'm sure it was fentanyl.
That thing, that's so dangerous.
But anyway, the second question is, what was your thought process going through this? Did you think it was a big deal?
I thought I was never gonna die. It was balls to the wall. I had been through some really horrible stuff at age 13 with my stepfather, and I was going crazy. There was no thought process. It was, how much drugs can I take right now?
Well, now we're going more into the mental health part. We already know what age. What did your thoughts embody? Like, if you were to go into more specific, did you feel sad towards it, or did you feel like nothing?
Towards the drug use?
Yeah.
I didn't feel anything. I was numb, completely numb. Like I said, I was fearless, which is not always a good thing. And my mother is a great mother, but I hid it so well because I was a master manipulator. Every drug addict is. I knew what to play, when to play it, what cards to show. It's just the way that my life was.
Okay. How did the moment hit you when you decided to turn your life around?
Well, let's think about that. Chandler, my life is so foggy. When do you think I decided to turn around? What age? He's been with me for 12 years. So.
About that time. And we had a good 6 months, but then we decided to sober up.
The first rehab I went to, how long ago was that, when it was in Alabama? let's say it was 4 years ago. No, I've been here
No.
4 years. It's been at least 7 years.
It was longer than that.
It's maybe been 7 years since the first rehab I went to. But I was not in on it.
But you weren't there that long.
Yeah, I wasn't, my insurance pulled out at the last minute and I only stayed 13 days or like
You were
10
there
or,
like 5 days.
no, it was longer than that. It was maybe 12 days. But I told Chandler to bring drugs when he came and picked me up. I was not ready to get sober.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I went to rehab, when was the one here? In Minot,
Almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And I decided to sober up for real this time. You know, I remember laying down the first night and thinking, oh my God, I've got 30 days, and I felt suffocated. Those 30 days went by like that, and I actually had fun in rehab. I worked on myself. I made a conscious effort to get better and really worked on the process of it. And those 30 days, when my last night was there, I thought, oh my God, I just said I'm gonna be here for 30 days, and it was over. It was, yeah. So it was a good experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The other one is, do you have anything to say in terms of advice to people who are going through their tough times and considering like going to drugs and alcohol?
Well, it's the easy way out, which is easy. It's inviting. The devil comes in voluptuous shapes. You know, he is appeasing. He wants you to come to him. And
Oh, I'm sorry, no students in here?
Just
it's okay. But drugs it's the easy way. And when you're going through a tough time, like if you have been molested or raped or have been abused, you're looking for an outlet, and drugs can be that outlet. But it is horrible when you get to depend, not just getting high for the fun of it. When your body physically depends on the drug, you are fucked. And it is not fun when you go into withdrawal because you do not have that drug, and you have to go on the street and beg and plead with shady people that are, you know, it's horrible.
Didn't really answer that question.
What, that is like what the question, I guess, talk to somebody, find somebody you can trust, which is really hard. You know, I had my mom, and my mom has been through horrible things and has survived. She's a true survival story. And she never went to drugs. I mean, things that happened to her, I can't even go into it. She never went to drugs. But like I said, it's the easy way. People can do it without it. It's a fact. My mom is a total case, you know. But find something that you enjoy, and that's hard too. If you're miserable all the time, you know. I enjoy wrestling. Wrestling is kind of my thing, and I like to Twitter about it. I've discovered Twitter, and I like to watch it. I like to talk to Chan about it. We watch NXT every Saturday morning. It's kind of our ritual. You know, I like to go to wrestling shows. I like to talk to non-drug, that's the thing, you've got to find non-drug addict people to hang around. That is the key, because if you're still hanging out with a bad influence, you're gonna use. There's.
I basically said that yesterday, cut all ties.
Yeah, I had to cut everyone out of my life. I literally have Chandler and my mom lives, you know, 11 hours away now. I have,
I gotta go.
okay. I'm
You
gonna
guys
leave
good?
soon, yeah.
I'll call you.
Okay.
To go- Do you just want me to go to the store?
I don't know, we'll figure it
I
out.
mean, what do you need?
Choke.
Coke?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I wanna see the final product.
Without you, we wouldn't be able to eat.
What? What?
He said he wouldn't be able to eat or something.
Without you.
Cause you're the
Oh,
cook.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
No, but I wanna see the final. for-
Yeah, we'll have like a private showing when it's all done.
How long do you think it'll be?
We're hoping for 10 minutes, but by the
Oh, no, I meant like the final product.
Oh,
How long before you're done?
by like the end of the school year, most likely.
That's good. Yeah, I'm really proud of y'all.
Thank you.
You are, my mom can't talk good enough about y'all. She loves y'all.
Awesome. Thursday morning, I'm sure you've heard of this from Mr. Chandler. Thursday morning, we're going to the Circle of Life Foundation up in Newtown,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to talk to the community members who are going through the rehabilitation process and everything.
Oh, okay.
And we're gonna just like talk to them and give them questions, and we're just gonna ask. Do you have any questions for us to, you know? give them?
Well, are you suffering? Do you need, I mean, do you need somebody to talk to? Do you need phone numbers? You know, it's really hard, cause question, you know, I wish my mom was here. I really do, cause she can think of stuff great. Just these kids, I feel for these kids that are going through what I went through. And, not just with the drugs, but with family stuff. And I can see it in their eyes when they come through the lunch line. And it haunts me. I don't know how, you know, I don't know how to help them, but I want to. But as a lunch lady employed by the school, I can't step over that barrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And all I want to do is help. I really do. But, you know, I can't step over that lunch lady barrier.
Yeah.
And the mental health thing is I'm so proud of you for bringing that up, because it's something that people don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, the drug abuse and because I deal with my addictions every day. I may not be using, but I deal with it every day. And the mental health aspect of it are the two biggest things in my life that I struggle with. So it was really weird when y'all said, let's talk about this, because that's like everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of people we interviewed said.
Mm-hmm.
It's most likely like no one. It's the stigma. It's the whole
Horrible
initiative.
stigma.
Yeah, it's the whole initiative the governor is trying to pull. Like they're trying to get people from different areas to talk about this. You know, the Youth Ending Stigma Challenge. That's what it's called.
That's good. You know, I'm just gonna say this. Some people need to be on medication.
Mm.
Medication, especially antidepressants and antipsychotics, have a horrible reputation because people think you're just crazy.
Yeah.
When it can help, and I'm somebody that knows that firsthand. It's really embarrassing when you have to. Well, I don't think it's embarrassing for me, but it can be embarrassing when you have to go to the counselor or the therapist and start your process.
Yeah.
You know, but if you find a good counselor or therapist like I have that really understands what you're going through, it can help in tremendous ways. And, you know, the hardest part about the medication thing is it's a trial and error. You have to find what works for you. It may not happen the first month. You have to, it's a trial and error, and it sucks. but you have to find what works for you, and it can work and make you feel better. And it's got a horrible stigma. You know, I've had friends, really good friends who I thought were friends, come back at me, "You're crazy, what do you know? You know, look at you, you know, you're a drug addict and you're on pills or a medication." You know, people will let you down. That is the number one thing. You have to count on yourself. People are gonna let you down. So, you know, it's just, I pray for the kids. I really, y'all are my kids. I don't have kids. I have fur babies. I have a cat named Clarence and a dog named Puppy. And Chandler's their daddy. And that is my life. But y'all are my kids. And I want y'all to be healthy and happy.
Thank you very much. You gave us a lot of insight. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course. I didn't want to do it at first, but I thought, you know, I want to help those seniors, because y'all are, I'm going to miss y'all. It's going to be different in the school without y'all. But,
Huh, we're juniors.
you're juniors? Oh, well, I've got another a year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still going strong. Heck yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can ask this on camera, but have y'all ever experimented with any drugs?
Never in my life.
Well, keep it going.
I don't believe any of these guys did, because we're all like very introverted.
I'm a
Yeah,
blind
right.
Yeah, it was most likely when we heard about it, we're just like,
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great, because I do think that pot is the gateway drug, but with me, it was blam bam. It was pot right after, you know. So, like I said, the devil comes and you want it, but it is not good.
well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very
I
much.
enjoyed doing this. Thank you, baby.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if y'all think of any more questions, and maybe I can get my mom to.
I felt like I had a close relationship with Alicia because for the short time I've known her mom, Miss Neely, she was our social studies teacher, and I felt really strongly when she left. And when I was talking to her, I just felt like comfortable, and I just felt like things were going to be alright again. So, hearing her talk about her past and describing or touching on just a little bit of how Miss Neely's past was, it was kind of like eye-opening, because I never would have thought that they went through that just from talking to them and everything. This interview by far showed how some situations can lead you to a sudden shock or realization of, I need to seek help, or I'm not headed in the right direction type of moment, and turn your life around completely. This one I connected to the most because the way Chandler explains it is how I would have explained it if I were in his shoes, if that makes sense. Coming up next is the grand finale, the Circle of Life Foundation, a rehabilitation facility run by nice, heartening people. They have done a lot in the past year and are more glad to tell us about it. Here they are. You guys got any openings?
Well, not curious, but it's just I didn't really hear about Circle of Life till now.
OMG.
Because I remember you told us when you came to our school, but we kind of just left it from my mind.
Well, so you guys are far away.
Yeah.
Did you record?
So when I think about that, right? So when I initially came to see you guys in, what was that, September, right, or something?
Yeah.
I was over at Behavioral Health, which is over there at the clinic. And so if you've ever been to Elbow Woods, that's where my office was, kind of buried down a long hallway. And this is Circle of Life. Kind of weird how it's all set up, which is probably why people have a hard time figuring out how to get services, right? You never heard of us. So interestingly enough, the whole team that was at Behavioral Health is now here at Circle of Life. We're still the same team, we're just here, different place.
Awesome.
So what we've been doing here is really trying to just be supportive of the community in many different ways. So it's been a real struggle when we talk about helpers, right? Helpers in the community, counseling, things like that. It's hard. It took us forever to recruit him. Like, we had advertised for a long time. Months, in some positions go advertised for years without qualified people.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you too. Thank you.
I think that that's important for you guys to know as kids and as communities. And Mandaree is a special community. Like, when I think about you guys and I think about all the things that go on out there, it's so rural. And then you get people who just drop in once in a while, right? So, oh, it took you a minute to remember me, and it's hard, right, to get people out there. So I think that's part of why, because people just come and go. It's hard to establish relationships to get well, right? So, what else? I don't know. Tim, feel free to speak at any time.
After these introductions, the energy in the room started to lighten up gradually. We showed up early in the morning, as early as the school allowed anyway, and we were anticipating having to be on the best of our capability when it came to manners and basic politeness. But when faced with a potentially offensive opening, Leilani turned it into a hopeful note, even if she reacted at first.
OMG.
Because I remember you.
Even with this lightened up energy, we still needed more introductions from our people and hers. So, let's keep watching. Did you want to tell us about yourself?
So I am a fairly recent graduate, recently licensed. So I was up at Mandaree State as early as last year around this time. And I did my 6-month internship after that, got my license, and then applied down here. What's interesting to me is you said you didn't really know about Circle of Life, but when I was going through school, Circle of Life came up a couple of times as a program. It has kind of, I think, a more prominent reputation, at least at Mandaree State University, than other programs in the area even. I don't necessarily know why that is. It may just be that things change here, and people tend to keep up, whereas I think in Mandaree people don't quite keep up with what's changing as fast. I know Circle of Life has gone through a number of changes in the last just year, even, so.
Good changes, good changes.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of interesting.
That's awesome. How many people do you guys have coming do your Circle of Life?
Like in a year, or in the last month, or so it's about a. So every week we actually keep stats. So it's about 100+ people every month. And when we talk about single contacts, like if we're not counting them over and over, it's about 100 people. Unduplicated count, right? So you guys are like, whoa, what's going on? Part of what fell away, there was a grant that ran youth services years ago through this program, and that's part of what fell away, which is why you guys probably don't hear much about Circle of Life. And so that's something that we're changing to do. We're trying to reach out to youth and bring them to do services. So we just took a bunch of kids to Healing Horse Ranch. Next week, Wednesday, they'll go back. They put up a teepee yesterday back here because the horse ranch was busy. So that we can hold talking circles and stuff. And so we're really trying to start working with adolescents too, because that's important, right? To help support you guys too.
Right.
And so we run 4 groups, right? Is it 4 or is it? Oh, we've got one that kind of pops in. So we've got a men's group, a women's group, we've got the adolescent group, and we're starting to do treatment in a couple of weeks here. And kind of each one of those groups handles about 10 people. So at any given time, we can have up to 40 people engaged in services with us. And that kind of rotates people in and out as they finish up. For me, this is where anything starts, right? right? Whatever programs you're thinking about implementing, whatever people you want to help, the first thing that needs to happen is people need to be aware and willing to put energy into it. And so what you're doing is the start of that. So, yeah.
I never really thought of it like that.
Nothing happens if no one is interested or watching the problem. And if you're watching the problem, then you're doing something about it.
Well, Miles, you got any questions?
No, I don't.
You do.
Stop eating and help us ask questions. You gotta have one taskmaster. That's how you do.
Let's see. When did this start? This whole building? This program
When
start?
did Circle of Life start?
If I'm not mistaken, Circle of Life started more than 30 years ago. So you know in Bismarck the tribe built a residential facility, right? Good Road Recovery Center. So that center is named after the community members who initially started trying to do this work. And a lot of it was grassroots work in the beginning. So it was people that wanted to help people. So Circle of Life has been around for a long time, more than 30 years. It's formalized as an entity now and funded by federal contracts. Now, but it's so you just gave me homework. Cheers. Yeah, it's been around for a long time. So, you know, things come and go, and we're just really trying to bring back the services for our community.
One thing I've kind of been thinking about asking on the way here was, what's the success rate?
That's just
Success rate of
like them getting clean.
So kind of the problem we run into research when we're looking at success rates is nobody really knows how to measure it. Some people say if you're clean for a year, that's success. Some people say if you're clean for 5 years, it's success. Some people say you can't really measure success because it's a lifelong process. So defining success is a little bit hard.
Yeah.
And kind of depending on the definition you use, the results change. So kind of the average for programs in general is something around, I think it's like, I want to say between like 17 and 20% for 1 year sobriety, and it's not very high. It's pretty low success for any given treatment program at one go.
Yeah.
Really, for me, what we need to be looking at as far as recovery goes is over the long term. How long does it take people, and how engaged in services are they, and does engaging people in more services over a long period make it easier for them to get well sooner? So that's some of the issues we run into in defining success with addiction treatment.
Yeah.
But in general, results are not as high as we want them to be, and that's something that the addiction recovery community is looking at, trying to improve.
What do you think makes someone successful?
What I think is basically when someone gets clean, like just how long, basically. Like, we have a person down that we interviewed. He's been clean for 20-something years now. You know, I think it's a pretty good success, I guess. And there's another person down there too who was only clean for like a month. And basically, you know, any time period, any time frame, I guess, would be a success.
And that's a good way to look at it, because we all have different roads, right? We all take different paths, and if we can stay, you know, lived experience says, if I can wake up today and not use, it's a good day.
Yeah.
Right? And as as those days go by and you feel stronger, right? Then it becomes, if I can wake up today and not use and help someone else, just one person, then it's a good day, right? And that's the way that we look at, is our community getting better? If you ask me if I feel like is the community as a whole getting better, I would say yeah. And part of it is because, hey, you guys heard about us and you came out here. And so I always use this phrase, are you collecting dots or are you connecting dots, right? And for you to come out and interview all these people, recovery programs, you're connecting those dots. And guess what happens when you connect dots? Man, we're aware, right? And you raise this awareness and you start to fan this flame, right? Yeah, and this internal flame will grow. And that's what you do as you start connecting dots. It's amazing. And so that and that's my way of looking at success. If I can get somebody to come see me or go out to see someone and we're well for that meeting, it's a big deal.
Just add with this. What is like the main issue people come in with? Like, what's like the most common problem people come in with?
The most common problem is trauma. So if you experience how do we define trauma? Any experience that, here's how I would define trauma. Any experience that shakes you to the core, that changes you. And so what I know is that underlying all the substance use stuff, there's trauma that we have to take care of. So if you ask me what I see the most, I see trauma. And that the substance use pieces is how we act out our trauma. So we get the behaviors, right? We use substances to cover it up, so I can be numb and I don't have to deal with my stuff, right? And then if we look at what are the most common things that people are using, of course alcohol is always out there, right, in the country. Here I think lately there's been more, so we track every month, and I want to say in reflecting on the last 3 months, we've seen more IV use of meth and meth use and alcohol. We see the opiate use is kind of leveling off, but at one point there was like tons of opiate use. Again, when we talk about tracking statistics, we don't have them all, right? So we're not very good at telling you that. What I was floored about is I just heard come join us please, Lois, these are the gentlemen. Thank you. What I was floored to hear is there were 7 overdoses in the last month or something like that, or since January 7 unintentional overdoses, opiate overdoses. That's a big deal. Yeah. So we're still working on, as adults and in programs, trying to connect those dots. So that's what we see.
Hello. Forgive me if this is kind of incorrect, but kind of the way I've seen it in the broader state is that meth seems like it's a home problem. Meth kind of comes from the state for the most part, whereas opiates in large majority tend to come from outside. So the more people you have coming into an area, the more likely you're going to have opiate issues growing, because in general, the opiate substances tend to come from places like China, whereas methamphetamine kind of sprouts up wherever you have it.
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
One of the other things about opiates, though, is that oftentimes it's like medication that's prescribed to people that is misused. For instance, I had a lady that overdosed on opiates not long ago, and she was prescribed medication when she had a terrible disease that was filled with pain. But very, very quickly, her tolerance increased so that the dosage the docs put her on wasn't enough, so she started to misuse them. And then she started to take the pills and crush them up, and she would do, rather than twice a day, she would take like 5 pills a day, crush them up and start to inject them. And then she would start to do a lot more. She'd get wherever she could, but it started with being prescribed, you know, legitimately prescribed. So that's what happens a lot, like in Native communities as well, is you start out with prescription drugs and then they get misused.
And if you listen and you look at what some of the
Yeah.
that I don't know who we were just I don't know what presentation I was just listening to, but they show that opiates are prescribed at the highest rates through IHS clinics. So already, right, it puts us at a disadvantage as a Native community. Here's what I do know, and I'm grateful for about this community. When I came on board with Dr. Taylor Desir was the CMO, and so she's also a psychiatrist. And she helped to change prescribing practices. So my first year here, I was really working with people who were being taken down from all those pain meds and things like that, and they were super anxious and all these things. So I know that in this community, the care through Elbowoods and their providers, they're really working on not prescribing opiates. So that's something that is powerful right now in this community. And I think it's good to acknowledge that, because Lois is right, in other IHS community like facilities, that's been the biggest problem, prescription opiates.
It's one of the things too is that it's really hard to see if people are honestly in a lot of pain, because if you go for back pain or shoulder pain or, you know, joint, or, well, you can kind of measure joint pain, you take x-rays and whatever and see if there's things going on, but muscle pain, how are you going to prove that unless you cut the muscle and take it out? So it's but it's really hard to prove or disprove like certain kinds of pain. And so as a doc and with them wanting to help people, it's easier just to prescribe some pain reliever. So probably shouldn't have told you all that, huh?
It's okay, because these docs ain't gonna prescribe it.
Well, and there are a lot of natural ways to deal with pain, so we don't really need narcotics.
And one of the things that we're doing here, and we know our patients like, is AccuDetox. And teenagers can use AccuDetox.
Would you all like to try it?
Like, yeah. It's and
I don't even do this.
so I'm gonna go and explain AccuDetox.
Well, do you know what acupuncture is?
Oh.
We use the little needles. Okay, so we use a protocol called the NADA 5-point protocol, and it's just auricular. So on the insides of your ears, like from here, just on the insides, and we use 5 needles and 5 different energy points. And so all it does is the needles access the energy points to start flowing kind of the way they're supposed to, instead of like all over the place and off the walls. And they're tiny, tiny needles. You can't even see them. Well, I can't see the needle points. I know where I'm putting them, but I can't see them. They're so tiny, and they only go in a short ways, but the point is they start to access those energy points and get it flowing the way it should, so that you calm down. It relieves pain, grief, tension, depression, anxiety.
It handles the what is that? The cravings.
The craving of the addiction.
You've seen it.
The craving for well, because it replaces that good feel that people are looking for.
It takes
People don't get high; they just feel good. They just feel relaxed.
Sounds awesome.
It is pretty awesome, actually. Yes.
Yeah, the people that come always for the AccuDetox, if you talk to them, and there was one young lady that was supposed to have been here today, she might have forgotten. But she just completed, and she's very young, she's only 20, and she did really well. And she was able to get off drugs and a lot of other good things.
Is there any bad things?
Oh yeah, I'm Gordon.
About AccuDetox?
Yeah.
So here's what research and here's what research tells us, and the SAMHSA at the federal level, they listed it as one of their tips, tip number 45. There really isn't any negative they haven't found any negative responses. However, in the last time I was doing stats or whatever, was probably about 3 months ago. We're looking at how many times we administered and blah blah blah. So in 1,200 like administrations, 1,200 treatments.
Yeah.
Tim and our intern were the only two that said, I probably won't do this again. And all.
I also don't like roller coasters.
And so, but it wasn't negative. It was just like I just probably won't do it again.
Yeah.
So people who get tattoos, there's much more discomfort in getting a tattoo than there is in getting their detox.
Yeah.
And also it's, I mean, basically, physically, what you feel is you feel a little poke.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of pressure as we're inserting it, and then that's it. Then you don't. There is one caution though, they don't want women who are
30-some weeks pregnant.
yeah, in their last trimester of pregnancy to do it because it can just be so terribly relaxing. They don't want the women to give birth before it's really time. So.
Wow.
So just don't get pregnant and then come back. Yeah. So you guys are all in high school in Mandaree?
Yep.
Yeah. Junior year.
Junior year? There are no girls here. Why are the girls not involved? It's not my
It's
area.
mostly
Because the boys are awesome. That's why.
There you go. I believe that.
A big part of the reason why is we've all had YouTube channels, like even before high school. So we've had like video making experience, especially this guy. And,
Alright.
and yeah, we've figured out, let's just make a club out of it. And as soon as we started making the club, we were planning on doing stuff for the school. Like we were advertising Saturday Academy.
Oh, nice.
And we were, just doing a bunch of fun stuff. And then one day we saw that grant email, offering up people who applied for it to get grant dollars for it.
Wow. Yeah, this is awesome. They applied for the governor's, the Recovery Reinvented
Okay.
grant.
The Yes Challenge, the
Yeah.
Youth Ending Stigma Challenge.
Great. That would be something, a lot of reasons we don't get people in a timely manner is because there's so much shame attached. People
Yes.
still, it's like thinking that if they come for behavioral health, it means there's something wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with us. We just kind of made some poor decisions at times for reasons. Because we didn't know how to make better ones, so.
And then we learn how to make better ones.
Yeah. So a lot of what we do here is, a lot of the groups that I do with both men and women, sometimes we don't even mention substances because we talk about all the skills that we need to live a good life. And oftentimes that's about learning how to make really good decisions, feeling really good about yourself, trying new things, all that kind of stuff that keeps people away from using. Because when you love yourself, there's no way you're going to want to do anything to hurt yourself. That means bad relationships, drugs, anything. Skydiving, no. Roller coasters, no, just kidding. Some people like that skydiving. Are you also in high school?
Yes.
Okay.
We're all junior year. It's pretty nice.
Cameraman.
Cameraman.
All we want to be cameraman.
You know what I realized is, I don't think we actually formally introduced ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Justin Guerrero?
Justin Yarrow?
Yep, the cameraman.
Okay. My name is Lois DeLong and I work here as one of the clinicians. And so I'm from Turtle Mountains, if any of you know where that is.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a person who applied there for the Yes Challenge too.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But I haven't lived there in most of my life. I'm just from there.
No.
So I go to visit because I have a lot of relatives there, but
Cool.
not lived there for a long time.
I'm Jasper Guerrero.
Jasper?
Yeah, it's my brother.
Oh, okay.
Twins.
No, I was younger. They're a relative.
Young Bear? Okay. Miles?
Yeah,
Miles, Jasper,
Justin.
Justin.
They're twins.
They are.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm Bryce. I'm the main organizer.
Bryce, and what's your last name?
That's
Fox.
Fox.
Oh yeah.
Director?
They're twins, huh?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same.
Jasper and Justin Carroll. So I went to boarding school in South Dakota, St. Joe's and Marty, and I knew a bunch of foxes and garrows and crows flies high and a lot of people from here. And there was three of them, two sisters and a cousin, and I ran into them again while I've been here. From grade
That's
school,
pretty
can you imagine?
What?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually stopped riding dinosaurs by then, but you know, we were in the 70s. And did you guys already introduce yourselves?
I don't know. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Like,
You know, sort of, you know.
sort of ish.
she came to our school.
Yeah, what does she do there? Hey,
Just-
does she stir stuff up and?
That's what I do.
She told us a little bit about Circle of Life and what they do here.
Good.
We just met him today because
Yeah, we just met him last week.
yeah. She got
3 weeks ago, I think. I'm
Nice to meet you. Listen to 5'8".
Tim.
Yeah, I'm just.
Bryce Fox.
I was trying to get Greg to come sit in here so they can see how diverse our staff is.
Just call him again.
So, and you know, one of the things is we're all from different spaces, and recognizing, again, right, connecting dots.
Greg?
Hey.
Here he comes. He's on the phone with you. Okay, over here.
So, 2 bits about me. I grew up in Hawaii. I got a bunch of kids. When I talk about lived experiences, we raised my husband is like the maintenance guy around here. We raised my sister's kids because she was on meth for like 10 years. And so, and living in Hawaii is like living on a reservation. So the struggle is real. I get it. We see it in our families all the time. My husband grew up in a family of alcoholics and domestic abuse, and so we get it. And so I think it's, again, back to it's powerful that you guys chose to do this, because it has to come from you all. And I think stigma really is, there's a lot of shame in addiction.
A lot.
A lot of shame, you know, so someone says, okay, I want to get better, you've got this one bunch of people who are like, come on, let's keep using, hey brother, let's go drink, or whatever. And then you got these guys over here who are like, are you for real? Are you sober? Like, are you really sober? So, you know, like all this judgment area,
Yeah,
right? You're just like, can we just live?
Yeah.
Can we just be well? Yeah. And that's the message that we gotta send, right?
Yeah.
Can we just be well today?
It's gotta start sometime,
One of the things it says, and so I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for, God, longer than she's been alive.
Because she's a dinosaur.
Because I'm old. But come join us.
Hello.
You're Greg?
Yep, I'm Greg.
Say howdy.
Grace, Greg Wilbo, nice to meet you.
Miles. Jasper and Justin.
Nice to meet you guys.
Cool.
How is it going so far?
Pretty well.
Awesome, good. Good. I see they're feeding you donuts.
You have to wash it down with water.
Yeah. So you feel somewhat healthy.
Well,
Eat some oranges.
you know what I learned is that if you're really happy while you're eating, it's healthy food.
There you go.
You could be eating tofu and miserable, it's not going to help your body.
It's mental health food.
Yes, it is.
It's good.
So I forgot what I was saying about recovery.
Oh, you were in recovery for some time?
Yeah, I've been in recovery for a long time. But there was something really, and in the big book, here's what I was going to say. In the big book, which most people in recovery follow, like the 12-step program, it has a statement in there about the thought about if I stop drinking or partying, my life is going to be stupid, boring, and glum. And who wants it? It says that. Why would we want to be, stupid, boring, and glum? Because people believe that, you don't drink? fun. And so what we do in the program is that we find ways to make it a lot of fun. We celebrate a lot of things. And some of the bigger cities where they have like clubs, 12-step clubs, we have dances and picnics and games and sports and all this wonderful stuff. And I've learned that the fun that I have, I remember it forever. It's not like laughing for a while and then passing out and having a headache the next day. So it's memorable stuff, and it's good, clean stuff, and it's the kind of fun where you could look in the mirror next day and say, wow, that was fun, instead of, oh my God, what did I do? So,
Or can you tell me what I did last night?
what did I do? Or you go outside and there's some blood stain on your bumper and you're wondering, what the hell?
That's the scary stuff.
Yeah, when people black out and still operating, they don't know what they're doing.
You know, I was thinking when you said sober dances and things like that.
Mhm.
You know, they asked about, and I said trauma, PTSD. That's what we see the most. And lately, we've been talking about resilience. You guys know what resilience means? What the definition of that is?
Is it similar to resistance?
No, it's a little bit different than resistance.
It's kind of
like it.
That's, resistance is embedded in there, but it's more than that. It's that and more.
More that you can handle it. With,
Yep.
Things
Yeah.
just like handling stress or something like that.
Exactly. Bouncing back, right?
Bounce.
Resilience is
Come on.
the ability to bounce back from stressful situations.
Yes.
And when we talk about resilience and we talk about our cultural practices, right? So we put it in the context of the things that our people did for all these years. Dancing, right? Movement, right? Telling stories, storytelling in groups, connecting, right? Social circles, dance circles, we're connecting dots. So we have all the supports in place. And so our,
And feeding.
and yeah, of course,
That's-
feeding,
that's
because
very
we cook
important,
together, and it's, you know, food is spiritual to all Native people, you know, because there's some things that you do and you serve certain foods, and but to sit, to eat together, to play together, and to work together, those things, that creates resilience. And when we think about the people who really struggle in addictions, we just talked about it, right? You have people judging you all the time. Who are they connected to when they're trying to get well? Probably nobody. But they could count all the friends they used to party with. And those are the same people judging when they're trying to get well. So, just thinking about that, it's in, I always use the phrase native intelligence. We knew all these things before somebody put it in paper and taught it in schools. It's in our DNA. It is. It's truly in our DNA. And if you just dig deep and, like I said earlier, fan the flame. Like, this is amazing that you guys chose to do this. Apparently nobody else's high school chose to do this. So that's powerful, right? And that's breaking down those walls. So I'm gonna shut up now because I gotta get out of here. I have a patient waiting, but I will let these guys entertain you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I am very, I'm so proud of you guys.
Did you show them the TV?
Seriously, no, but if you want to take them for a walk right there, great, and can talk story.
They
and-
raised the teepee yesterday out in back so that
We
we
did, it
could
was
start
pretty
doing
cool.
some of that.
Let's go see the TV. Go see the TV.
I mean, I saw you guys starting to put it up, but I don't know.
Do you know the teachings about the inside of it? Like, you know the teachings about like the inside of the teepee and...
Where things go and all that? I don't
I
know what the
don't
local
know.
teachings are.
You remember what he shared with us about how it's the same as sweat lodge and that it's the ribs?
Yep,
Or like
yep.
the mama's. So have that talk with these guys and take them to the teepee.
And also where people go, like adult women, adult men, where they belong in there, in that circle, so.
How about you keep him company and go do that?
Okay, I can until 10:30, then I have.
Okay, awesome.
Oh yeah, do you have his phone number? Or driver?
Yep, you want me to have them holler at him to come in like 15 minutes?
I think so. Probably not 15 minutes.
Half an hour, right now?
Like half an hour.
Half an hour. Okay, you got it guys, thank you.
Who's she calling?
Our rep.
Ghostbusters?
Our rep.
We've been talking.
I was curious, what is like the age expectation? So before, I think I don't know how much
they went into like kind of what Circle of Life was versus is right now, and there's a lot of changes I think that happens with here. But before they used to primarily serve adults, and now we're serving pretty much all ages except for what is it, the norm,
Well, yeah, we don't
the
serve
younger-
infants necessarily, but we look at their families. What we did when we were over at the clinic, because 3 of us were over at the clinic before we transferred here, is that when we had little kids, we would just do like play therapy, or we'd observe them when they were interacting, and that's about all that we did. A lot of times kids don't need counseling, they need to be loved and parented, basically.
Right.
Appropriately though, so. But we have a youth group, and they're like 12 to 16?
Yes.
17?
17.
Okay, and then I have a women's group, and it's 18 on up to 90. If they can still ambulate, they can come in and serve them. Same thing with the men's group. And then we're starting a family group on June 19th, but that'll be over in the Fort Berthold segment at the Johnny Bird Place. And so it's for all members, all family members of people who are struggling with addictions. So we're really open.
I can't necessarily speak to how many people come into this building, but if you look at the nationwide statistics, it sort of suggests to us that a lot of addictions happen in sort of the kind of up to 25. That's sort of where most of it happens. You will see people continue addictions into their 40s and whatnot, but most of the concern with addictions is up to that level 25 point, and it starts younger than you would expect. Particularly in rural communities, you can get people starting substances as early as age 9, and yeah. Research says that the sooner you start, the more difficult it is to recover, and that's kind of one of the challenges we're facing. But as a very broad understanding of what age groups we get, it's generally kind of in that teen to, I would say, maybe 30s is the biggest area of the population.
Any questions? What do you guys do? Like, what's your own little area?
So, I'm a licensed. Yeah. I'm a licensed addiction counselor. So here at Circle of Life, I'm in charge of developing and managing the day treatment program, which is getting off the ground on the 20th year. So I'm just in the finishing stages of getting that program ready. As far as what my focus is, what my passion is, I'm really interested in pharmacology, which is how substances work in the body and in the brain. And then neuroscience, so what the substances do in the brain once they're there, and how we adapt to those things.
And so I'm a master's level social worker. My roles have sort of changed and then meshed together over here. So I started off as doing a lot of the case management work here, and then eventually kind of got back into clinical work. So basically doing some of the things that Lois does and Leilani does, just mainly sticking to assessments, individual counseling groups, group therapy stuff. Like I said, I work with the youth group and amongst the other groups that are going on here. So that's my role.
And so my role here is I'm currently the clinical supervisor, which just means I'm a clinician. But a part of what I do is I also then train people, monitor the other people's work, make sure everything is up to standard. I have to look at like laws and crap like that. They're necessary. So we look at all that, but my passion is in working directly with people. I feel like Creator blessed me with recovery and with several chances, and this is part of my way of giving back to help other people. Another thing that I learned in program was that no matter how far down I had gone in my addiction, every experience that I had could be turned into something beautiful to help other people. That's what I try to teach clients as well. So that's what I've been doing. And the number of years actually have been in the field and in recovery. I've been 39 years. Thank you. So, so I love to do like the groups and individual sessions, but I'm real kind of unorthodox. Legal, I'm always legal, and I always follow ethics. I always do what I think is best for the client, and I treat people with dignity and respect. But we try a lot of different things. Like we'll do storytelling, we'll do like not art therapy, but therapy through art kinds of stuff. Teach them how to do like massage, like hands and neck. Teach people a lot of different kinds of skills. I'm licensed in the Detox. And I do a lot of that. I used to take people out and teach them how to play, like adults who never learned how to play appropriately. Take them out and teach them how to play weird things. But they would learn from it, right? They would learn a lot of different things that they didn't know before. It was fun. We'd be running around outside, screaming, yelling, and people from all over the compound would be looking at us. What are you doing? I also am I'm licensed in facilitating low ropes courses, which are basically like skill building, team building kinds of initiatives where you practice a lot of like learning how to be a leader, learning how to communicate, take healthy risks, things like that. I've been through the high ropes course myself, but I'm terrified of heights, so I never got certified in that. But I did take a chance, and I learned how to do a canoe, even though I don't swim, and whitewater rafting.
Oh, that's cool.
I can do those things with a nice life jacket.
Nice.
All of that
All
has been
those
very fun.
things, she was in her time a master welder as well.
Oh yeah.
I think that's awesome. That's my favorite.
And I left because, geez, it's hard on the eyes and on the body. I always had a big old burn mark right here where the leather didn't quite meet the mask, And then in those days, women were not really kind of too welcome in those kinds of fields. So the guys would say, "Hey, Lo," and I'd look at them and they'd flash me and that would burn my eyes. And it was mean, but they thought it was funny. So, but after a while, when my eyes started, pretty soon they were all just always blurry. And one guy we were using a hand pulley, and we were lifting those kind of, they look like fences, but they're on box cars. They're doors for box cars, but they're that linked, like chain link fence. And one of them, when you roll it up, it weighs like 400 pounds, right? So we were lifting it each on a side. And as we were about halfway up, the guy just totally dropped his end, and it jerked me forward, and it gave me whiplash. And so I was out of work for a while. So I quit welding. I started doing desk work where only danger now is to my South 40 and my neck.
Do you guys want? We'll go from there. Since I missed out on the first part of it. Sorry. All age groups to be able to speak kind of what's going on in their life, something that they really didn't have much exposure to. This is kind of just where we have you don't have to go in that area, but this place is used to be utilized for several different things. We've got people who come in out of town who are contracted and they'll stay here sometimes. One of them has a lot of space back here, and so what we wanted to do, long story short, with the kids that when we came over here and they were going to be transitioning over here and we we're going to be serving kids again, we wanted to get some projects going, and this is one of them. This is what started just kind of us throwing some things together, and we're cycling kids through, first starting in regular group, just sitting in group, talking, doing journaling stuff, really laid back style. It's nothing too in-depth, and the kids like that. So then we cycle them into groups out at the Healing Horse Ranch. I don't know, you guys know where that's at? So if we're going out towards Partial on, what is this road again? I don't even
23?
23? Yeah, you're going all the way out on towards Partial, and it's that huge house, and it's got all these different...
Oh, sure, that one.
Yeah, it's something we take the kids to do. It's awesome.
Yeah, you always pass by it when you go up there.
I'm blind.
So anyway, that's one of the things we're cycling the kids through. And then the next step is this step, which is going to be the teepee was something that I thought the kids were going to engage in. The students wanted to be a part of it, and it's going to be their talking circle area. It was huge. I couldn't believe how big it got. I didn't know that it was going to be that big.
Well, you know, you can sleep about 14 people in a teepee. That's how when we go to Sundance, that's about, we pile up in there.
It's pretty big in there.
So at the moment we have about five students that are a part of the group, but yesterday we had 3 that were participating in it. So we got a lot of good help yesterday. People volunteered their time, and then also we worked collaboratively with the college here. The plan also for therapeutic reasons is that we're going to have a garden that's going to be developed here. I don't know if you guys met Dr. Hertler. I don't think he's here today, but Dr. Hertler was really excited about it. He's our one of the contracted people who come out here and work with Circle of Life. And he really wanted to be a part of it, and so he took the reins and kind of dealt with what the things that we need for the garden, kind of what we're going to plant, and worked with the master gardener who's also partnering up with not the Circle of Life, but the college. And so that stuff's getting started. Why a teepee? Why a garden, right? Did you guys ever kind of wonder how that fits into some of the work that we do at all?
Therapy.
Exactly it. That's the answer. There's therapeutic. A lot of what we do and what I learned about, I'm still learning with Lois being our teacher, and also Leilani. They really brought their holistic approaches, which is something that is.
Take a picture of the TV.
Which is something that I think wasn't really a practice, but it was at the end of the day. When you think about some of the histories of our people, talking circles, simple ways in which how we engage therapeutically has always really been there in our histories and in our people. And part of that was being self-sufficient and having these areas to utilizing an area like a teepee to talk about just kind of things and meet and kind of hash out some things, for lack of a better word. And then the gardening brings people together, and they learn to start something and feel that sense of gratification when they finish it. And that's really something I'm excited about, because, and the kids are too. The kids are really I'm sorry, I just naturally call everyone kiddos, so I think you guys are kids, but they're students, they're teenagers, they're almost adults, but they are learning things still too. And so they engage. They were all about this. They were really happy in being able to put this up and finish it. And knowing that what we're going to be doing moving forward with it is really exciting for me. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, but Jameson, have you met these boys?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you introduce yourself?
Yep.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but so Leilani told you this is her husband, right? And I just want to say she's a very lucky lady, because he does all kinds of things here, from building things to painting things to all kinds of stuff, everything. So I'm just wondering, plus he
and
is
one
from
of
a
the people
very
who helped put this up, I mean, he volunteered his time to come out and help us too.
plus he's from a very spiritual clan or people in Hawaii. So if you want to, could you share a little bit about like Hawaiian ways and the earth and things like this?
You
guys all
grew
want
up
to sit down?
in a place kind of just like this.
Yeah.
We don't call it reservations back home in Hawaii. It's called Hawaiian homeland. And I grew up poor. My family had problems. My dad was an alcoholic. He used to gamble, and my mom, she gambled also. She wasn't really an alcohol drinker, but so I grew up poor. We lived on commodities just like you guys. Yeah. Milk, cheese, peanut butter, flour. And growing up on the homesteads and moving here to the States and starting to work on the res kind of reminds me of home. All of our kids have the same problems. They come from broken homes. They go to school, make bad choices, end up going to prison. And for a while there, I was kind of on the same track. I had a hard teenage life. I was a dad at 15. I have 6 children. So it was a struggle. I had the same problems as my dad. I was an alcoholic. I was very abusive. But as you grow older and you understand that it's not just you in the world, you understand that people around you make a difference. Your aunts, your uncles. When you're young, you don't understand how much they influence your life. As you get older, you understand that. You know, all those times when your aunts and your uncles caught you doing something bad and actually took you back to your parents and sat you down and said that, you know, you guys are doing the wrong thing. It'll make a lot of sense when you get older. It'll make a lot of change in your life when you get older. I don't drink anymore, I'm not abusive. Found out that I had to love myself before I could love anyone else, you know. And once you make that change in your life, it'll make a huge difference. Pele, I don't know if you guys heard of her. It's the volcano goddess. It's actually spewing all that lava out of the volcano on the Big Island. She, in my genealogy, is my great grandmother. Like, I can trace my genealogy directly to her. And with her spirit, they say that she's very destructive, but she also, whatever she destroys will grow back thicker, more lush, more green. So she destroys, but she also recreates. So whatever she covers in lava, in 10 years from now will be lush green forest most of the time, which is really strange thinking of fire. And fire in my genealogy is light, always light, you know, always fire brings light. And we grew up learning that fire is light, fire brings heat, brings life. In Hawaiian culture, we also need water. So when we got to all these islands and we migrated, we made sure that when we landed, there was fresh water. Native cultures, what do? Follow the water. They always trail to the next freshwater point. They don't just randomly go out there in the world and hopefully you find water. They know where their water sources is. It was the same way in Hawaii. So wherever there was fresh water, there'd be villages. Just like how you guys built earth homes. We built big hollies. We just did all big A-frame logs that we put together and lashed. So we had big homes, big earth-style lodges where there was a men's house, a women's house, and then a big meeting house in the middle. So men and women slept separate, but we always ate together as a family. Children would live with their moms, and dads would live on their own. We have the same style of, we warred against villages, so warrior men would be raised in the warrior style, learning how to do lua, learning how to combat with weapons, spears, clubs, daggers. We didn't have any bows or arrows, but of course, Hawaiian men were 7 feet tall. So if they wanted to hurl a spear, it'd go pretty far. I mean, our king was 7 feet 6, 7 feet 7.
Wow.
Tall man.
Yeah, he was a tall man, big. Like, he was like 320 pounds of just pure muscle.
Wow.
There was a legend about him when he grew up, and Kamehameha the first, There were kings in Hawaii that were on every island. So every island had their own king. Well, the island that he was born on, so because he didn't want to lose his kingship, he actually went after him. So they tried to find Kamehameha's mom. Well, what she did was when she was ready to give birth, they put her on a canoe, a voyaging canoe, took her out into the ocean, so no one could hear the screams of her giving birth to this man. Well, when he was born, her kahuna took this baby up into a valley that was literally almost impossible to get into. The only way in was one way in from one side of the trail and one in from the other side, because there's 3 huge valleys that you can't enter from any other way but the ocean. So they took him up in there, raised him, taught him how to be a warrior, taught him how to be a king, told him how to speak, read, write Hawaiian. When he became a man, I think he was not even a man, probably about your guys' age, probably 16, 17 years old. To prove that he was a king, he carried a stone that was over 2,000 pounds for like 30 miles. He literally went under the stone, picked it up, put it on his shoulder and walked. And then he set the stone down.
Whoa.
At 16 years old. You know, that was an amazing feat back then. So, you know, he became a chief. He started to gather his warriors, and then he traveled from island to island, literally conquering all 8 islands.
Wow.
He beat 7 of the kings, and the 8th island was Kauai. The king actually said, "Please, I don't want to lose any of my people. I will gift you my island."
Huh.
While he was sitting out in his war canoes. So we have drums, kind of like your drums, but we beat on it with our hands. Well, they're huge pahu drums, war drums that they'd carry on these canoes. And they'd sit out there and hit these drums. And the warriors that would be on the canoes would do what they call an aiha, it's just a stomping. And they just sit out there on the canoes for days, just pounding on these drums. So the king of Kauai finally came out in his canoe and said, "I don't want to lose my people. I don't want my people to die. So I'll gift you my island." And that was the last island that King Kamehameha conquered. There's thousands of stories about this guy. I mean, he drove like 1,000 warriors off of a pali, just right off of a cliff. But they wouldn't give up. They wouldn't just let Kamehameha come in and conquer them. They'd rather die for their island, for their people, for their families. So that's where the Hawaiians get the strength of the warrior from. Because we were a warring clan. We had times in solstice where we wouldn't fight, and we'd just have warrior games. And all of the people would come together to do these things. You know, they throw spears, play ulumaika, which is a game that they use round stones and you have to roll them between 2 sticks. I mean, they were all warrior games, but it was a time of peace, so you wouldn't war. It'd be a time of planting, you know, in the spring when you can bring life instead of death. Let's see what else I can. The thing that I've learned being here and seeing the teenagers on the res is we were lucky enough to be on an island where we have influences, but we don't have to live in the white world. We're lucky enough that we're trapped on this island, that the influences are there, but they're not as big. Being out here, I've noticed that the native kids have problems because of the influence from outside. A lot of them don't follow their cultural life, like, you know, they don't follow what their grandparents did or their parents did. It's totally, I mean, I understand it's a totally different world, but you can't go forward in the world if you don't know where you came from. You gotta base your life on who you are and what you are and where your family came from. It doesn't mean that you have to live that style of life. It doesn't mean that you're gonna go back to hunting buffalo and chasing deer. You know what I mean? It's just you gotta understand where you're from, because that's who you are. Native is who you are. Native Hawaiian, Native Indian, Native Alaskan. There's a reason why there's Native in front of it. It's because that's who you are. That's where you came from. You can trace your genealogy to the soil you walk on. And in Hawaii, the kids are proud of that. That they can literally trace themselves right back to the dirt. You know what I mean? Like, we can literally say that this Aina is where we came from. This is the dirt. This is where my ancestors have walked. Once kids can find that in themselves, then it's easier to move on. You need to be able to walk in both worlds, 'Cause the native world is different, the white world is different. You just need to be able to walk on that fence and understand both sides of the world. When we were in college, me and Leilani, we had this instructor, and what he told us is, you come to college not only to be educated, to get this little piece of paper, so when you walk in the white world, when you put that paper down, no one can tell you what to do, because you've been educated in the white system. And when Leilani said she was going to go after her doctorates, I was like, do it. It's just another, it's a proof that you've done what they said you needed to do. But she's always grounded herself with her culture. So she's really grounded in the Hawaiian lifestyle, the Hawaiian movement, everything she bases her life on is because of her Hawaiian past. And it's a big accomplishment for us being young parents. She didn't get her doctorate degree until she was in her 40s. Whereas if we had went to school, she probably could have got it in her 20s.
I think there's even a lesson in that, is that it's never too late.
Yeah, it really
And
isn't.
another lesson is that the two of you stayed together and raised your children. Neither of you ran off and abandoned the kids, so that's a big deal. So you've been married, 30 years, and
30 plus.
always raised those kids, and you never dumped them, which is a big deal, because a lot of us get pushed off on other people because our parents are doing other things. But I really like the message about the stronger you're grounded in your ways, the more you can accomplish here, because you have all of that, the strength and of all of your ancestors backing you. That's what we do when we go to Sundance. Our very first dance is calling all of our ancestors to come and be with us, with the strength. And then you can move forward. Good.
Yeah.
It's amazing where we find teachers, huh?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing our people always knew, is that you learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Can you hold me up, Greg? I think I'm stuck down here. Ow!
You want to just roll her into
No, actually, I can get on this knee and I can push myself up. It's only this knee that's bad.
No, you better not.
No, it's only this knee that's bad, I swear. Unless you want to come on this side and help me.
Yeah, because then you got to lift on that.
Yeah. Ouch! Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, ring around the rosies.
Another lesson, don't let the old grandma sit on the ground too long. Okay.
This is awesome.
Well, it was nice meeting all you guys. I'm gonna
It was
go.
nice meeting you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you. Keep doing well. I'm so proud of you boys. I'm very proud of you.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you so much.
I love that. Whenever I was watching this,
Wonderful.
somebody sent me this video.
I'm so proud of you, grandsons. You just keep doing the good stuff you're
This
doing.
whole thing, like on a run, it's awesome. Like you did it, I need for like a.
Oh, it's just.
I'm up to you.
Is there if you taking pictures?
Yes. I wanted to kind of tell you some things too, like in addition to just the youth that we had out here to put it up. We had some people very impromptu, out of the blue, we called on people who we needed help from. And although the college was coming out, I was unsure of how many people were going to just be a part of it. And so, like I said, Jameson was out here, but we also had some friends of, I don't know, BJ Rainbow is the VP out at the college, and he's a friend of mine, and he said he would initially, in the beginning, was going to come out and help me get this going, because really I'm learning about this. I've heard several different stories in my time, but I've never really actually put a teepee up, so it was a first for me. It was a first for me to see what it took and what you needed for it. And for some of the kids, or for some of the youth, it was their first time too. And so what that brought, kind of what Jameson just did, is he came and he kind of shared with you his culture and his background and all these things that kind of meld together. And that's what happened yesterday, unexpectedly, kind of, because we had a guy, his name was Willie, right? Willie, and he came out here and really took charge, and in that process, started telling us. It was sort of like talk story. He just started telling us what this was about, and so the story that he told us before. Once we got it up and it was still didn't have the tarp over it, he told us kind of the meaning behind why, what in his culture and what his background is, what that means, and the directions in which they face. He first told us and asked some of the youth, why do we put the door facing the direction that it is, which is usually to the east, and I believe this is more northeast, but we had to do it that way actually. Yeah. But normally you'd put it to the east. Why is that? What's that?
I forgot.
I know, and so many people, I forgot it even. I didn't know what I was even talking about at the time, but he was a lot of the students did forgot too, and the reason why they pointed it that way is because when you come out every day, you're presenting to the sun. You're coming directly, and the first thing you see is the sun.
It's in the west. Yeah.
So yeah, and then the next piece he told us, once it was erected and ready to get the tarp over it, was that he mentioned that the I can't even think of the sticks at the top, the poles that face the direction they're at, is to symbolize that during the day, I forgot what he said about the day now, but he said at night, and that those are the things that guide us and those are the things that watch over us. So I just thought it was interesting, some of the symbolic meanings to it and how different everyone's is, because I've heard different things too. My family from South Dakota are Lakota, and my mom is a Chippewa out north. So I mean, they have lots of different things that they believe. I don't know if you guys want to go inside too, or take maybe angle pictures in there as well.
Yeah, do it.
So once we got the tarp up and we were checking it out on the inside, and he was trying to make sure that everything was pretty stable in here. He had some problems with this one and the other one by the door, but it's kind of why it's kind of at an angle where it doesn't look straight up and down. But yeah. He was telling some stories about how his story about being within the teepee is that it's sort of like a protector, and that they viewed it as the symbolic meaning behind this would be the ribs, and that those who are inside of the teepee are like the heart of the teepee, and so this is what protects us. This is what that symbolized, and so I just thought it was really interesting in that point when he told us that towards the end, because it means a lot to me, because of the individuals I work with. I don't only work with adults. My colleagues really feel that I connect with the youth, and I didn't realize, I think, until up of course a few years ago, and then with them telling me that you really do connect with the youth, and I've been working with them, and I continued working with them when I even came here, that I didn't realize that was the truth. For whatever reason, I was connecting, and for whatever reason they were relating. I have a sensitivity, I guess, to the fact that that whenever a student and a teenager is going through some things, that they really need that outlet, somebody to talk to, no matter what level you're on. I know what it's all about in high school. I know the cliques, and that there's still people segregating this way and that, and that people are popular, and people have labels, and people have all these different things. It still exists, and one of the things that I'm passionate about is the fact that people still connect even whenever they're at their worst, whenever they're not the people that they really sought themselves out to be. They still are people at the end of the day, and we have to remember that. And what I really appreciated about that story that he told us about this being the people being the heart of inside of the teepee, and this representing the ribs to protect you, is because I'm serving youth and adults, but I primarily work with the youth. My heart is there, and they were literally inside of here as the heart of this teepee, and they were being protected. And in that moment, I thought to myself, wow. It was just a meaningful moment to me. Although I've heard several different stories, I grew up on the res, I know what it's about, and I just felt it was really important to me that the kids were hearing that, and also how they responded to it. It's not like they jumped for joy, or they're like, oh, I have a aha moment. They were more like, yeah, they were reminded. All of us know, especially at the ages that you guys are at, all your life you're going to be reminded in different ways how important you really are, what it is you have to offer in this world, and that there's something to be said about that. You are the future, and I know, as redundant as that sounds, it's so true. You guys are here doing a project where kids don't usually engage in stuff like that anymore. Namely, res kids. You know, we are exposed to certain things, and we have to be strong in that. And I love the symbolic nature of this, saying, hey, when you feel least protected, there is protection. You are doing great things, and so. Yeah, I'm glad you guys came out. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Somehow?
Yeah, no problem.
We can get
I'm not
through
an
that.
expert in it, I promise, but I try.
Jasper is so short.
No. You know, some people think that like, we don't really do anything, but it really is hard work. You know, cooking for 250 people every day. You know, it's like twice a day.
Where you get some real definition even from like far away.